Hello, hello, luminaries. I am so excited today because I have my friend and amazing astrologer, Narayana Montúfar, with us. Narayana is a Mexican born, California based astrologer. She just lives on the opposite end of the bay from me. She's a writer, an Akashic Record reader, and known for her books, Moon Signs, Unlock Your Inner Luminary Power, and her newest book, Written in the Stars. Well, Narayana is so amazing because she was managing editor and senior astrologer for astrology.com and horoscope.com. And she has an amazing story why she left that during one of her midlife awakening transits. She currently works as the in house astrologer for the House of Intuition. Mariana has contributed to publications like Women's Health, Cosmopolitan, Refinery 29, and been featured in Vogue, Teen Vogue, and so much more. Welcome, Narayana.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here with you, Leslie. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my goodness. Well, it was absolutely a no-brainer. I just love you and your energy, and you have a brand new book out.
Yay!
I wish
Great.
I had a copy, a physical copy, but I'm in Hawaii right now, not in my normal space. So I wasn't able to get the copy in time before I traveled here. But do you happen to have a copy with
Yeah,
you?
yeah, it's here.
Okay, first of all, look at how gorgeous this book is.
I gotta say I'm happy with that. It's very colorful like me.
Very colorful.
And I did the art direction.
It's so beautiful. The charts and the graphs in this book and the illustrations are just so amazing. One thing that you need to know, oh, look at that. So beautiful.
Yeah, it's all my art direction. So I'm really happy with that.
Yes. Mariana is an amazing artist. You also do astrological and Akashic paintings and things like that. And if you go to her house is covered in all of this beautiful art. And it makes so much sense because Mariana has her Scorpio sun that's conjunct Uranus. And so it makes it like wild and eclectic. And then a Leo moon in the fifth house, all about creativity and exploration, and then that Taurus rising. And so everything in your chart points to like just beautiful aesthetics, but in your own eclectic, colorful, bright way. I love
Yes.
that.
I actually started my art journey because of my birth chart.
Oh my goodness. I
Yeah.
know this is not about the book, but can you tell us more? Like, I want to explore that. I didn't hear this story before.
Yeah, I mean, I never went to art classes. I always liked it. My mother managed an art gallery in Mexico City when I was a kid. I was always exposed to it because my whole family back in Mexico were very into art. So I always liked it, but I never really saw myself on the other side. And when I started studying astrology, well, I've been doing astrology full time since 2011.
Mhm.
And that was a long, really long journey of learning and getting my brain, my hands dipped into everything from Reiki to tarot to astrology to all of the
Akasha.
now Akasha, you know. Um, and when I saw my chart and I said, well, what's going on? The stellium in the fifth house, the moon in the fifth house ruled by Venus, and it was pretty clear that I needed to be an astrologer. I mean, besides that, an astrologer, an artist. And Lynn Bell one time gave me a reading in front of everybody. I don't know if you know her, one of my favorite astrologers. She was so funny, so feisty. She said, "What are you doing this now?" Oh, I'm a managing editor. I create astrological content. No, 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 no. What? You're an artist. You're an artist. What? And I was like, whoa, it really hit me.
Yeah.
And not that long after, I started taking finally classes, drawing, acrylic, and all of that. And I rented an art studio in San Francisco, and that's how it all began.
Oh my goodness. Well, one thing is super clear about, you and your chart with your Taurus rising with Venus in Sagittarius conjunct Mercury, like you are here to not only learn like self-expression, but like to express like the soul, the deepest parts of ourselves, whether you're writing these beautiful books or you're like creating your art. And so I'm just so happy to get to have you in my friend circle. Let's talk about your book because this is your second book. And so, like, oh my goodness, like people would like, to have one book, but to have two books. So, what inspired your book journey and this second book?
Well, in complete honesty, I wasn't pursuing that. I wasn't pursuing that. Through my editorial career, I just learned a lot about writing, editing, and all of that, project managing, one of my favorite.
Your Virgo
Um,
placements,
yeah.
yes.
Um, and in 2020, which we all, well, we
Yeah.
knew, us astrologers knew, which is awesome. I always tell that story. I was like, oh my God, that crazy conjunction on the in 2020 of like
Yeah,
Pluto,
Pluto, Saturn,
Jupiter, Saturn.
Jupiter.
That was on my midheaven.
Oh, that, yeah, Capricorn 25 degrees. Oh my goodness.
So when I saw that, I was like, what is this? I mean, obviously it's gonna do something.
Explode your career.
Exploded. All of a sudden, I that first book, Moon Signs, just landed. My progress moon was going over that as well.
Also, okay,
Yeah,
divine timing.
yeah, my progress moon was also in Capricorn at the time. So it was like 10th house, super activation. And that book just landed on me. That's the reality. I somebody recommended me, a friend recommended me. She recommended two people, me and someone else. I'm not gonna say who, obviously. Uh, and that person had a big following, much bigger than mine. Um, and they went for me. And Hardy Grant is the publishing company. They're a little bit more like just got bought out, but they're Australian and British, and very nice people to work with. So that just kind of landed on my lap.
Yes.
And
So that was your first book.
yes, that was my
Yeah.
first book, and I love it. It's my first baby. It's designed for beginners, but it has a very it evolves. It's helping people work with the transiting moon, which is one of the things you do in
Yes.
astrology. It helps them work with the natal moon by sign and house. And I kind of snaked in a last chapter that wasn't supposed to be in there about the progressed moon.
Oh, yes, the progressed moon.
So, yeah, that book kind of took me up um
Well,
to visibility.
what's super interesting, right? Like when we're talking about this divine timing, like in 2020, how this like, this book landed, like being asked to write this book, Moon Signs Unlocking Your Luminary Power, and then talking about the cycles of the moon, because that's how a lot of us fall into astrology because we're starting to track the moon. We're starting to do full moon rituals, new moon rituals, and then we learn about the progressed moon, which we don't have time to talk about that here. So we can save that for another conversation. If people don't know about the progressed moons, let us know in the comments and we'll have another conversation about that. But written in your stars, this your newest book is all about this personal cycles and these personal evolutions. And I find that absolutely fascinating because, and so when you're like, oh, I have this book and I was reading through it, I was like, this is such a wonderful book so that people can really cue into this divine timing that you're talking about. Can you talk a little bit more about these personal cycles?
Of course, yes. So when somebody will say, um, this repeats,
Yeah.
this happens again. Oh no, is this gonna happen again? Or that kind of happened 15 years ago, or that kind of happened. it's like, oh, this, this new energy, or a person that comes through every month or every 2 years. And there are these patterns,
Yeah.
these cycles. That was my main goal with bringing Written in Your Stars to life, to give somebody a to give my readers a tool for them to figure out that certain stories are related to certain planets.
Mm.
Whether it is career, whether it is your menstrual period, right? It's
Yeah.
connected to the moon,
Moon.
your Venus cycle, and that you can track it. And that's pretty much a very surface level to think about it, like tracking it. What I'm trying to do is to inspire readers to figure out what part of their life is connected to which planet and its cycle, and how that is related to a very divine, I mean, because that is what I consider our relationship with each one of the planets.
Yeah.
It's a divine link with the archetypes of the planets that are inside of us, not just outside of us, and that they are divine. I see the planets as divine beings. It might sound a little woo-woo, but
Yeah.
as divine beings that respond to us when we're asked. That's why we do ceremonies. That's why we set intentions. And how this is cyclical,
Mhm.
right? Like,
Yep.
for example, the best example is the cycle of Saturn,
Yeah.
right?
Everybody knows Saturn.
Who doesn't know the Saturn return? Well, that's kind of like the first one I go to, because it's like, okay, well, think about you when you're turning between 29 to 30 or 59 to
Yeah.
60. It's a
Oh,
huge
yeah.
moment in your life, right? And so
Mhm.
bringing that, but also, for example, everybody thinks that it's the Saturn return and that's it.
No.
No. And it's not like that. Saturn works in an interval of 7, as you
Yep.
know. Every 7 years, you have a really important Saturn transit. And if you go back in time, you can track how that story develops.
Yes. It's so beautiful. Like so written in the stars, Narayana basically like she plots out all of the patterns, all of the cycles of all of the 10 planets from the moon all the way through the Chiron and the North Node. And I definitely want to talk about the nodal patterns because that one just blew my mind open. And so basically each of these planets take, their own amount of time to go through the zodiac. And when we know these different cycles and the timing of these cycles, we can start to look back at the patterns, at the rhythms that repeat, so that we can know what's going to happen in the future. I'm going to make this a required reading for all of the people who are signed up for celestial cycles, because this is like, I love that we're talking about this because I have a class, Celestial Cycles, that's coming up that tracks all of like the micro patterns like the sun and the moon, but also the macro patterns like from Jupiter all the way through Chiron, and then all the midlife patterns. I think most of the listeners here will be in those midlife. And so you do such a beautiful job. Can we talk a little bit about some of those midlife planets, those cycles? Because so many of us here are in that and going, what's happening? Why is this happening to me? But if we understand the astrology, then we understand the meaning and the purpose of this evolution we're going through.
Absolutely. I mean, these are the most important cycles, you
Yeah.
know. And it's really interesting. And what was really complicated about Written in the Stars was that some of these midlife crisis cycles, like, for example, you know, one of my favorite astrologers, Barbara Handclough, says that you don't actually become a full human until you're 50, which is the Chiron return.
Having passed all of my midlife cycles, I can fully attest to that.
But and you have the Uranus opposition, which is between 40 and 46,
Mhm.
or 40 and 44. It's in the timeline. I'll show it because
Oh,
I'm
it's
pretty
so
proud of that
beautiful.
timeline. But some of these other cycles are not that predictable,
Mhm.
sort of. They're not, like, for example, the Pluto square.
Because it's
And
elliptical. The cycle is so elliptical. You could get
that one,
those. early or very late.
Yeah, like I got mine pretty young because I'm
I got
from
mine young too.
yeah, because we are from the generation where Pluto is moving faster, you
Mhm.
know. But the new kids on the block, they're not going to get it very early. So we actually put up with a lot, our generation, for us, life accelerated in a
Mm.
major way with the like Pluto square, the Neptune square happening kind of around the same time. And then the Uranus opposition, and then you got the Chiron return. So basically, so between you are hitting between 40 and 50,
Yeah.
you're gonna get hit back to back with some of these major life-changing activations that are gonna change your life. And the more aware you are of them,
Mhm.
the better you can handle them because in my experience, it's not just about, oh, is it going to be good or bad? You
No,
know?
there's no such thing as good or bad. That's so binary thinking.
Yeah. It's such a binary thinking, which is creeping in, by the way, with Uranus and Gemini. We have to be very careful with that. That's another subject. But you're going to experience the highest and the lowest vibration of both. That's why I brought that
Yeah.
in my book. What is the highest vibration and the lowest vibration of a planet so you can pinpoint? I was like, okay, I'm going towards the darkness. So let's go back to the light.
Yeah.
And this is how you do it.
Yeah.
For me, I remember that every single one of my midlife crisis was very meaningful,
Oh
like
yeah.
very meaningful. When I had my Neptune square, I was super confused. I didn't know, um, I didn't know if I was in the right track in my life. This is
Yeah.
before the moon signs book.
Yeah.
So it is a time of confusion, but it is a time when you become very spiritual if you allow yourself to do that, because
Yep.
that's what Neptune wants.
Yeah. Neptune wants you to transcend.
Exactly. And you're not transcending if you're not making room to transcend,
Yeah.
right? Then the Pluto square is very intense because Pluto is intense.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of people doubting their careers at that time
Mhm.
when they come for readings, that when Pluto is square Pluto, it's like, um,
Yeah. I feel like Pluto square Pluto, when people are going through that, if they're not bringing awareness to it, they just feel like everything is like dying around them and that everything is like they're having to let go, but they're not remembering that they're letting these things go so that they can emerge stronger and more empowered. And so it's like when like I think what your book does, it just reminds people like, hey, you're going through this process of evolution, right? Your natal planets, even our natal chart, it's not static because as the moving planets transit around, it's causing us to evolve because we're supposed to evolve. And if we're resisting that evolution, well, then Pluto's just going to come up and smack you upside the head. And then that's when shit happens.
that is a very good point that I often, with my content, I try to bring it up. It's just there's so much resistance,
Yes, so much resistance.
which I
And
guess is part of being human, but like you're not going to get a different life with the same formula.
no, I don't understand. Like, I think both of you and I are super comfortable with change. Like, I'm an Aquarius and you have Sun conjunct your Uranus. And so, like, we're both like, okay, what's the next awakening? What's the next awakening? Or like, we welcome these, like, kind of cosmic evolutions because we know that the only inevitable thing is change. And so, why not, like, be on top of the wave and, like, go with the change instead of, like, sinking under and resisting it? And like your book shows us the meaning behind all of these changes so that we can embrace this and like be in the flow of our evolution.
Yes, and I think it's a lot of it is mental,
Yeah.
right? A lot of it is mental, and it goes along with like where Mercury is in your chart. I have Mercury in Sagittarius. Um, so that has helped me change, I embrace change.
And
But I
you're
also think
optimistic and hopeful.
I try to, because life has taught me that when you are not, you invite that. It's energy. Everything is energy.
Mhm.
Everything is energy. So um, I bring in a lot of practical tips that are just, they might seem small, but that if you stick with them, things like meditation, like, you know, for me, the reason why I love astrology is because that's what it's done. Like, for example, we talked about my art. I could find a different dimension of myself through that, right? That's my happy place, actually. That's
Yeah.
when I'm most happy when I'm making art. So I know that, right? So if I'm feeling depressed, if I'm feeling like the world's gonna end, I make art. And then
Yes.
that helps me feel activated, right? For other people, let's say you're having a Mars square or Mars opposition. That's why I say go and do some kickboxing,
Yeah, sweat it out.
yell and like let it all out. So for me, that's what astrology is. It's not about being like, "Ew," it's about practical tips
Yep.
that can help you at times in your life when you otherwise would feel really triggered and then feel like everything's against you, right?
Yeah.
I
You know,
think that's what you were saying.
when you were kind of mimicking like a whiny client, right? Like that kind of like the blaming, right? The like, oh, I'm going through this and like, oh, this and this. But it's like, if we understand why, if we understand what's the meaning, then we can like turn it into a lesson. We can turn it into a gift. I have a question for you, because we think about we are talking about midlife cycles and some of these like different planets like Jupiter takes 12 years to go around the chart. Saturn takes 30 years about to go through the chart. Uranus takes 84 years, right? And so right between like, in our like early 40s, even sometimes I got mine in my late 30s, of course, all my things are early. But we go through this like Uranus opposition. And to me, this is like the highlight of our midlife awakening. And so you had something big happen during your Uranus opposition. I had something huge happening with your Uranus opposition. Can we share stories?
Of course. I mean, I love your story, but when
Yes.
you told me that that happened to you and I was just starting and I was like, I wanted like Leslie, I was like, she had this business awakening. Can I get a big business awakening? But that's the power and the beauty of astrology.
Yeah.
If it was the same for everybody, life would be boring, right?
So boring.
We would be minions, but we're not. We're complex beings living a human experience.
Yeah.
So your Uranus opposition, do you want to talk about it?
You tell us first because this is related to the book, right? This your Uranus
Okay.
opposition. Yes.
Yeah, so I was right before my Uranus opposition started, which I knew because I had been anticipating it. My life was kind of like already very like ever since 2022. I just had other trances that were just kind of brutal,
Yeah.
like anyway, I'm not getting into that, but I just started feeling like Uranus even before that because I'm very Uranian. I have the
Yeah.
sun conjunct Uranus, square my moon, square my Mars, like it's all
Yeah.
Uranus.
So like anything that was gonna your Uranus opposition was also gonna impact your sun. It was also going to like awaken your creativity, your inner radiance.
For the last 8 years, I had Uranus square most of my chart, square oppose. I mean, it did things. It started me out as a professional astrologer, though. It like pushed
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
to be my best self, to come out, to serve. But at my Uranus opposition, I just started feeling like I cannot longer work for corporate America.
Yeah.
I just felt like I wasn't using my brilliance, like I was wasting my time for Taurus rising, for money, for security, for habit.
Yeah.
like wake up every morning, la 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 la, do this, have all these meetings, la 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 la, be bored. Um, I'm not ungrateful because I had that job for many years, but I knew that if didn't make changes, they were going to be made for me.
Yeah.
So I quit. There was a lot of resistance on that end, on both ends, because we were like this
Yeah.
business and I were
It
like,
enmeshed. It was like your business was a partner of yours. It wasn't just like an employer.
no, 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 it wasn't meshed.
Yeah.
So it was difficult. I quit. There was a lot of resistance to let me go. But I felt really free. And I was going through some time with my family. I lost my stepfather in 2023, which was a Saturn cycle, by the way, because it happened exactly 29 years after I lost my biological father.
Oh,
And I saw it coming and I predicted it. And that's power, right? But
yeah.
I knew it was going to happen. And I just watched everything happen. But it was really good because I'm usually a control freak and I wasn't trying to control the situation. Normally, I would be like, let's try to prevent this.
Yeah.
I let it go. And I know that that was a huge evolutionary jump for me
Yes.
to more observe, to be there, to feel it. So, anyway, I was recovering from that.
Yeah. And then Uranus is like,
And then I got
hello,
my Uranus opposition. And I was like, uh-oh.
wake up.
I always tell my clients when they're having that, I said, well, if when you have your a Saturn transit, this grumpy old man, Saturn,
Mhm.
knocks at your door. This instead, Uranus is this like cool, eccentric weirdo, with blue hair and just plain fun and weird knocking at your door. Actually, I started painting my
Your
hair
hair. Yeah.
straight as with this Uranus. It was purple, it was
Yeah,
orange.
because your Uranus opposition was first house, seventh house. So you were awakening your presence, your self-expression, your sense of identity. Of course, that was like being woken up. And then your relationships had to change. Like your business relationships just couldn't fit you anymore because you were like cracked open. You were just like someone completely brand new. And so, oh, but that's how your
Absolutely.
book came through, though, right?
So what happened with the book is like after moon signs, you taste success and it's like, I want some more of that. Um, and I have a lot of ideas for books. I mean, I
Me
feel like I
too.
should do that for a living, right?
Yeah.
We're brainstormers.
Always ideas.
Always ideas. So I had a lot of ideas for a book, but what happened is that I had pitched, but it wasn't aligning, and I actually did get a book deal, but it didn't feel right, and I actually said no to that. I said no to that. I was offered a contract, and I rejected it.
Yeah, trusting your intuition.
Yeah, and I kind of like gave up on it for a minute.
Yeah.
I was like, the stars aren't aligning. Like, I get it. I would love to I would love to give birth to a second because it's one of my favorite things to do, but whatever. I start my 6 month Akashic reading training, which was way more intense than I thought. Because Uranus is the planet that helps you attune to the higher realms. It rules Kundalini energy
Yeah.
and it rules intuition and psychic powers. And so when I did my Akashic training timed with the Uranus opposition because I was just having these major downloads. I mean, I would
Yeah.
see things, I would talk to beings, it was just like, it's here. My father started coming back a lot,
So cool.
like a lot. He's always around because I've been healing through that. And I said, I need help. I need professional help because this is sensitive stuff.
Mhm.
And I was doing that 6-month training, and it was so much deep work, so much crying, so much healing, so much learning. And at the end of that training, my reader gave me my teacher gave me one of the most amazing readings of my life. I never told her anything about the book because, like I said, I had given up on it.
Mm.
Her first question was like, are you working on a book? And I said, yes. I actually have the first chapters written already. And I have the skeleton of the book. I just kind of pulled back. They said that book needs your guides, your spirit guides, your angels, they say that book needs to happen. And I was like, uh-oh. And they said, you're just looking at it in a different way, in the wrong way. And I was like, well, what do you mean? It's like, you need to loosen up, girl, because, I can be pretty uptight when I'm working. Because I come from editorial, I got really used to the old way of bringing information, like blah, 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 blah,
Yeah,
very
process,
old.
procedure,
Yeah,
protocol.
yeah, rah, rah, very
Yeah.
Virgo. They said, no, you need to make it more about you. You need to make it more fun, like share more about it yourself. Bring that Mars, because she's an astrologer, bring that Mars from the fourth house to the 10th house. Like just let it crack open, girl.
Yes, colorful and you.
Uranus, right?
Yeah.
And so I went back to the drawing board after that. And that's why in the book, you'll see stories about my life. You'll see stories
I
about how
love them.
do you like that?
I
Do you,
love the stories about like, being born in Mexico and how, your parents had that like love affair, like during Valentine's Day, and you have the Scorpio baby. Of course, I'm biased because I'm born on Valentine's Day. So I always think about like this Valentine's like Scorpio kind of thing.
right, right, right. So like, like my mom's Saturn, it's like I was born in my mom's Saturn square.
Yep, because she's 21.
Yeah, I have stories about some of my clients. I have stories about my husband's dad, who was my guinea pig because he went over the Uranus return. He's
Oh,
80 something.
84.
Mm-hmm. His
Wild.
story about his Uranus return for him is people think life is over. I'm like, oh, this guy got married during his Uranus return.
Yes. Oh my gosh. To hear those stories, I love those stories. There's so much longevity when we want to go with the flow and want to like celebrate life. Well, you know what I think about, your Uranus return and like this book and this Akashic records, like these kinds of things happen. We think, oh, the first Saturn return, like you were saying, was like at 30, your life is over. Like that's such baloney, right? It's just like, but in your book, what I love is like you have all of these cycles for the outer planets at like the squares, and you have the certain ages that you'll be around when it happens. So you can start asking your questions even without a professional reading or without having to know how to read your chart. And then you also have that calculator link in your book, which is super fun to play with because it actually lists your dates for your returns and squares. And so y'all got to get this book because it has that handy dandy calculator that has all of your cycles in it. And like, it was just like, it was so helpful. And that's why I definitely want people who are taking celestial cycles, my class that's coming up in August. Of course, it's going to be from a business and leadership lens, but we'll be talking about that spiritual entrepreneurial spirit and how that integrates into these different cosmic cycles that Written in the Stars is all about, right?
I'm so glad you talked about the calculator because that was very difficult for me to include because the tech was really complicated, and luckily I married an engineer like you.
He did this for you? He wrote it for you?
Oh, he didn't totally do it, but he was, well, you have an engineer, not him, but the engineer I was working and an
Yeah.
astrologer working together. It was not, it was like, so he was the link.
Got it. He could translate for you.
He made it happen. He put it on the website and he's done all, I mean, I have a lot of calculators on my website, like the progress moon
Yeah.
calculator, the birth chart calculator, that all my husband. Like I'm not that techie.
Yeah, but this timeline, the written in your stars calculator with all of the timelines for the squares and the returns, I think it's like super, super, super helpful. I mean, like the book is just a beautiful resource, even if you're a beginning astrologer, but also a seasoned astrologer, just with all of those cycles. It's just so beautiful.
Thank
Um,
you, Leslie. You know,
yeah.
I'm like, are astrologers going to be mad at me for creating this calculator? Because
No, no,
like,
no, because
but astrologers can use it.
astrologers can use it. It's so beautiful. Like, I'm not afraid of AI. I'm not afraid of like these tools because there's still the interpretation, right? And like
Of course.
that's what they come to us for. And
Like the
so,
whole point is for these tools to help us
yeah.
to speed our workflow because the world is accelerating at at such a speed that we cannot work the same. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just, I mean, does that resonate with you?
Oh
Like,
my gosh, yes.
we cannot work the same anymore. We need to rely on tools for to speed up our process. You know, this is the timeline.
Oh yeah, it's so beautiful. Look at that.
He helped, this was his idea.
Well, one day when you get to work on your calculator, if it can look like that, I was like,
This was my husband's idea.
it's so beautiful.
I will not take credit for it.
It's so beautiful. Is there any last thing that you want to leave us about your most beautiful book written in your stars?
I guess the last thing I would say, and I know you appreciate this, I will just share, and I think somebody asked me that in an interview recently. What's your favorite part of the book? Um, the lunar nodes. For at least for me,
Mhm.
the lunar nodes are magic. I mean,
Yes.
I remember my first astrology reading as a teen. The astrologer told me, "You're here to serve." And at the
Mm.
time, it made me uncomfortable because I was like, what?
Your Virgo North Node.
I'm like 14, like what? And then I understood afterwards
Yeah.
because I have the Virgo North Node and Pisces South Node. And so I wanted to make sure that that was here because the nodes of destiny, we call them the lunar nodes of destiny, are incredible. And I never do a birth chart reading without them because they have
Mhm.
so much depth. In fact, my soul path reading, which is astrology and Akashic Records, is my signature reading. It's a
Yeah.
3 hour super in-depth reading, explores the nodes through the Akashic realm.
Oh my gosh, I need this reading.
And it's just so life-changing. I always say when you go Akashic, you can't go back, baby,
Mhm.
because it will give you a multidimensional lens and the nodes, we all 12% of the population has the same lunar,
Yeah.
right? Is that sixth or 10th? Anyway, it doesn't matter, but it is something that I encourage everybody to dive deeper into that chapter because it's going to bring a lot of awakenings about what your soul is here to do. It will open the door to integrating your past life learnings and gifts and talents into this incarnation. And that's how
Oh,
I see it. It's not about moving away from the past, like you'll read in a lot of books. It's about integrating your past. And that's what I love about how I've taken some of your classes. So that's what I love about you, Leslie, that I remember this is like the whole chart is a gift. That's what you said in one
yes.
of your classes. And I fully believe that, even the hard parts, in
Yes.
fact, the hard parts
Or
hold more.
even bigger the gifts. Yeah.
Yeah. And so for me, the south node, which is perceived as very negative, and it can be, it depends on how you manage it and how you integrate it. But I see the nodes as that polar opposite or sister signs that really help you understand what you're good at and how you integrate it into your life now. And that's when my life changed
Yeah.
tremendously when I was able to understand that I had been an astrologer before, that I had been a mystic, that I had been
Yeah.
this meditation crazy person, you know,
Yeah.
and then how now my job is to make all of that understandable, digestible, easy to follow. And that's, I think, a big part of
Yeah.
this book.
Yeah,
Um,
that's I feel like so, I'm so glad that you reminded me about the lunar nodes because in so many books, we don't talk about the transits and the cycles of the lunar nodes. I know this because of like my research from like many, many, many different things. But your book is like, to me, the first book that talks about the timing of the lunar nodes, the lunar opposition, which is called like the inverse, that we also get during the midlife awakening cycles that people are always wondering about. And so if you wanted to learn more about the lunar node cycles, like you got to get this book because it's never been written anywhere else. And the next time we catch up, Narayana, I got to tell you about my Akashic when we did that Akashic thing at your house, and then I had the glimpse. I've been having more of those glimpses. It's ready for me to see it.
wow.
I've been seeing I've been seeing my murder in so many different ways.
Oh, wow. That's, yeah, that was
It's
great. I've had some crazy, that was a quantum, right?
yeah, that was the quantum with the
Yeah.
Blue Lotus. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, the last time I did Blue Lotus, he was like, whoa.
so good. Oh my gosh. Well, Narayana, thank you so much for sharing. And so you can get Narayana's book anywhere that books are sold, Written in Your Stars. This will talk about your evolution, your personal cycles. It gives you so much depth, great for beginners as well as seasoned astrologers. If you're taking my class, Celestial Cycles, this will be such a great supportive tool for you to look at the different cycles and just thank you, Narayana, for being
Thank
my friend
you.
and
Thank
coming on.
you. I mean, I admire you so much, and I am so appreciative of your support. And every time you and I get together, it can just be so fun, and we can go into so many re good,
Rabbit
exciting
holes.
rabbit holes for Thank you, Leslie. I seriously, truly appreciate it.
You're welcome. Everybody, get Narayana's book, Written in Your Stars, and we'll see you soon. Bye for
Yay.
now.
Bye.
As a human design projector, my energy shines more brightly because of people like you who share my work. If you enjoy this podcast and want to help build a movement of innovative astrology and leadership and spark the intuitive revolution, please rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, or better yet, share this podcast with your change-making besties. We will all shine brighter together as we create the future we want to see.